As I sit here watching the temperature in the Pacific Northwest crash through world records like Tour de France bicyclists through fans holding signs, I keep thinking to myself, when did this summer release schedules actually get so good? Looking into July, there's a bevy of games. Some new, some old, some from early access, and one or two coming in from other platforms. But it's the diversity that's shocking, the sheer multitude of delivery mechanics, and somehow even a flight simulator title. I mean, who would have thought that anyone other than a couple of us geeks would have been excited for a flight simulator game on a console? That's right, absolutely nobody. July 2021 is bringing the heat in more ways than one. Let's discuss the top 10 video games for July 2021. First up, the Ascent. Known originally by the codename "Let's just make sure no one can see absolute shit while we're playing," you got a game that's set in a neon giant, a Blade Runner, Metal Slug, 4-player co-op isometric shooter with a penchant for projectiles and a palatable problem with the law, and full-on RTX support for all the ray tracing you can possibly imagine. The Ascent is where skilled and unskilled laborers are enslaved by the corporations to do their bidding, and the status quo is trying to make each day suck just a little bit less than the last one. But what happens if the largest of those corporations falls apart, throwing the entire system into chaos? That's right. You grab your guns and you go out and Sherlock Holmes the shit out of everything by shooting holes in clues until they bleed answers. And by clues, I mean pretty much every single thing in this game world. Customize your characters with gear and skills, different powers, grab different armors and weapons as you traverse the locations, and you join up with up to 3 friends for some 4-player co-op and local style action. It's a little bit Metal Slug, a little bit over the top, a little bit bullet hell, and all kinds of what I want. Over the top wouldn't even come close to describing the game's cutscenes, let alone the actual action. It's anarchy, it's top-down action, and it's called The Ascent, which means technically this is already a AAA title. Speaking of AAA titles, let's talk about a little side story in the normal AAA series, and that is Monster Hunter Stories 2. In Monster Hunter Stories 2, you play as the grandson of Red in a turn-based role-playing game as you train to become a monster rider, raising monsters, bonding with them, and training them as companions to go out alongside you and others that you gather throughout the game world. While the original Monster Hunter Stories 1 isn't as well known in the West as the main series titles themselves, Monster Hunter Stories 2 looks to shatter that, offering fans of Monster Hunter more action-packed titles as well as those fans who might be a little bit newer when it comes to turn-based battle games. It's a full-fledged RPG with you out there befriending creatures, bonding with them, and performing quests all around the game world. The demo is out now and is receiving acclaim for keeping that Monster Hunter atmosphere and feel, but offering something that's a little bit refreshing compared to the main style titles. I don't know about you, but I'm looking forward to Monster Hunter Stories 2. But I'm even more looking forward to this next one, Microsoft Flight Sim, for Xbox Series S and X on July 27th. Flight Sim, it's incredible. I mean, if you like these kind of games with graphics that are almost photorealistic, the game's already established a massive fan base on the PC. The switch over to the console sees cross-save compatibility as well as first-party DLC crossover. It is the first time on console for a Microsoft's Flight Sim. The console version also has a feature coming to all versions of Flight Sim, and that is a Land Anywhere system, which allows for gamers to land in snow and water and other notoriously troublesome locations with much more of an at-ease kind of structure for those people who just want to explore and fly around casually. The idea that this is coming to a console, that they fit the mechanics within the actual controllers and actually have specialized controllers if you want to go and get them, means that we are going to see a Microsoft Flight Sim on consoles running at 4K or 1440p and 30 FPS, which even when you look at that right there is still a sight to behold. Microsoft Flight Sim comes July 27th, looks incredible, a ton of different things you can do, can't wait. And the next up is a very unique title, Crowfall. First, its troubled development seems to have stretched on forever, and I get that for an MMO. Even this one has taken a long time. This is a PvP-based MMO, a resetting throne simulator, if you will, as you play a crow who's an eternal champion that can be a mix of various races and classes, and you engage in large-scale MMO battles in kingdoms that have a specific lifespan or a specific trait around them. Now, while Crowfall can look like a lot of other MMOs with that third-person over-the-shoulder look and builds and races and crafting all to take care of, it really is nothing like most other MMOs. Like, if you look at this, it's a bit like a larger World of Warcraft multiplayer, though, with rewards doled out to the winner, much larger battles, and a type of continuance across the different kingdoms you can explore. A large-scale battle system that is based a little bit on the Dark Age of Camelot-style games. Now, one kingdom type has you plop down into the world, collecting resources and items, and fighting some monsters as well as other players in a consistent PvP mode. This is your campaign that lasts a specific amount of time. However, there's also other worlds that you can go into and create your own kingdom and build your own buildings and settlements. They don't reset, as well as you can set up your own medieval ruling systems. There's also a kingdom with a consistent battle between light and dark that isn't timed like the others. If it sounds like someone is explaining to you 3 or 4 games all at once, it sort of is. Well, the game harkens back a great deal, as I said, to the Dark Age of Camelot. Its decision since 2015 to offer such a unique focus has brought both incredible interest as well as a huge share of infamy as a game no one thinks would have actually ever been released. But here we are, it's coming out in July, and I, for one, am incredibly excited even just to see what someone attempts when they go out of their way to do something a great deal different than everybody else. And that brings us to our next in line, Plague Tale Innocence. So Asobo's already on this list once with Microsoft Flight Simulator. However, the announcement of a next-gen version of Plague Tale Innocence is cause for celebration for a lot of us. Plague Tale was a title that snuck up on many people. The story of a brother and a sister and their escape from treachery turned into an almost supernatural third-person action-light stealth game with a heavy lean into role-playing and a story all delivered in a third-person viewpoint. Set in a somewhat twisted 100-year war setting, the story had you sneaking through enemy camps, leading rat hordes into solitary guardsmen, and even taking over your mini-ruined castle fort. It was a game that surprised, then surprised again, and then when you thought it was done, it was surprising you again. Seeing this get the upgrade to 4K visuals and 60 FPS and improved audio for Xbox Series and PS5 is extraordinary, and I'm super excited for it. Even more exciting, this update is free to anybody who has the title already, and of course, we do know that a sequel is coming. Stranger still, there's a Switch version of this game, Plague Tale Innocence, that will be streaming on the Switch coming up soon as well. So regardless of what platform you're on, you're going to be able to jump into this. And that brings us up to our next game, Chernobyl Light. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, this sounds a little bit familiar as a title. Probably, because the game has been in early access forever, like a couple others here. It's finally hitting consoles and PC on the 28th. It wouldn't be surprising if you looked at this game for just a moment from Farm 51 and thought to yourself, this is some kind of Metro offshoot or Exodus or something connected to the Stalker series. It, too, takes its storytelling chops into the lands of Chernobyl. Expect here, though, where the prior games are usually a little bit more action-packed at all times, this is an RPG where you gather a group of people around you, a team with heavy RPG focus, and go out into the lands day by day to find your missing family member. And as each day crops up, you end up having a base sim within it, making sure that everyone can get what they need, and then you wake up the next morning, take the fight back into the Badlands, and whatever mission does crop up for the recipe of the day. Now, this is a bit first-person shooter, a bit RPG, a bit base building, but it is a style all of its own. Early access reviews have been very positive for this game. The idea of a non-traditional, non-linear title in this format has really set a lot of those reviews to the positive. This is a title to check out. That brings us to Cris Tales. This is an incredible looking title. This is by Modus Games. Cris Tales is nothing short of a love letter to JRPG style titles bent on its side and then kicked off a friggin' what the hell cliff. Chris Bell can see the past and the future, and even more so, she can change it as a character. You leap into battle where the past, future, and present smash together on different sections of the same screen, and Chris Bell can then adjust the times and timing with her powers, taking advantage of each different time frame to take out enemies across the world of Chrysalis in this 2D painted art style that looks a little bit like an anime and old cutout style games when Flash was brand new. But it's the strategies in this game that are so goddamned exciting. If you take on a crotchety group of enemies, hey, maybe make them older so they can't fight as hard as they used to. Give it a try. But with age comes experience, and if you throw them into the future, they may have new skills or abilities, or more powerful ones you never anticipated. It's an incredible idea, even with bosses sometimes being affected by statuses in the past, and when you jump into the future, doing more damage. And you don't just play as Chris Bell. You also play as other characters as you travel across the game world, all of them with their own powers, classes, and abilities like the main character themselves. They'll be useful not only in battle, but also in quests as you explore the world, another place where that time shifting can actually take place. Cris Tales comes out on July 20th and looks to, at the very least, try a number of systems that are incredibly unique, not only in JRPGs, but just in role-playing games as a whole. This is a title that is absolutely on the top of my list. And that brings us to Tribes of Midgard, July 27th. A colorful Diablo-style Viking mythos. You take off in a procedurally generated Midgard to protect your world from the giants. Sign me up. team up with other players as you battle it out across the worlds, upgrade your characters, add skills and powers, and across a number of different classes you can construct defenses for your village, because randomly, at any time, an invading giant may show up and stomp the living shit out of it. If that all sounds a little bit like, well, a lot of other games recently, I can see why you might think that. While this game does add in the expected survival aspects and fighting off enemies every day as nightfall drops around the game world, the biggest change here is the game scale of co-op in this setting. It has 10-player co-op, meaning that's like a mini MMO right there. And that is going to change the entire way this title plays. A little bit Diablo, a little bit Viking Fortnite, and a whole hell of a lot of smashing, slashing, and stabbing. Let's see if Tribes can actually offer something different. It looks to do that, even if it's the way the co-op works together with so many different characters that can be called to help you defend as well as explore this procedural world. And that brings us to 9 and 10. But here, I'm just going to do it right now. I'm going to say 9 and 10 are yours. I want to know what your 9th and 10th July games are. You can't pick the ones I've picked. I want to know what ones it is that you are looking forward to. I had a couple honorable mentions here, like the Forgotten City, Warhammer 40,000 Battle Sector, both of which actually have got some pretty good previews. Of course, there's Pokemon and there's Zelda, but at least for me, not a title on the list that I think a lot of people are looking forward to. I know that Nintendo may think so, but we'll just have to see. So, I'd like to know what your games are, or if you disagree with or agree with any of the games I've got. If you get a chance, subscribe to the channel, spread the word. Peace out.